Feel uninvited. Left home in West LA. I'm not excited. So uninspired. On my way to play the bass.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing two looks with the new ColourPop Wild Nothing palette. You guys know that I always jump all over it as soon as ColourPop comes out with a pressed shadow palette because generally speaking, I love them so much, always. And I rarely have any complaints about them at all. So obviously doing looks with them is really fun because it's like, I don't have to worry about whether they're going to be any good. I more have to worry about just coming up with fun stuff for you guys. This palette is a little bit more on the neutral side, and by a little bit more on the neutral side, I mean it's like neutral as hell. It's like really neutral. But you know what? Sometimes it's a nice palette cleanser between things, and as far as neutrals go, this is more interesting neutrals, and we're still gonna have a good time today. So I'm gonna do two looks with this. I'm gonna try to make them as fun as I can with a neutral palette. We're gonna have a good old time. Maybe if you want to, you could subscribe because that would be good if you haven't already. Also, if you wanted to leave a like on this video, I would really appreciate it because it's very helpful, and you know, I appreciate helpful things. As always, I will go ahead and timestamp both of the looks down below. That way, if you want to come back and recreate one of them, you don't have to watch the whole video again or like scroll through it. You can just like click to like which one you want to recreate, and I'll list everything that I've used on my whole face. So that way, if you like really specifically want to recreate it, that's available too. As far as like aesthetics are concerned, I think that this is adorable. I love that there are little cactuses with cactus flowers all over it. I love that it's embossed. I love the color scheme. Personally, I feel like this would have been better if it came out in the spring, but you know what, nowadays I feel like with the way everything has been pushed back manufacturing wise, you can never know if this is when this was supposed to come out, because for all we know, this was supposed to launch in April. You know what I mean? Oh, my back. I need to crack my back. Ugh. Whatever else it is that I think I need to say, I'm sure that I can just do it while I do my makeup. So let's just get into this look, look number one, with the ColourPop Wild Nothing palette. So this is what the inside of the Wild Nothing palette looks like. As you can see, it's a very neutral palette. Now, there is one shade called Seashells. This has like a little hint of a green to it, and I'm definitely going to play with that green in one of these looks, even though I feel like calling it a green is really a stretch. But these looks in general are going to be a lot more like light and fresh sort of everyday looks than I normally would do here on this channel, but I think that's kind of a nice change of pace. So to start, I'm going to grab my BH number 7 brush, and I'm going to go into the shade Vagabond, and I'm going to start working that through the crease area. I swear sometimes it's so humid out that I feel like the humidity affects how my makeup sets. Like right now, I feel like my primer feels stickier than usual because it's like a rainy, humid day. There's a tropical storm coming up the coast right now, and I just feel like my face feels sticky. Anyway, so I'm gonna work this through the crease and just blend it up nice and high. On a number 7, I'm gonna go into the shade Come Together, which is just a little tiny bit deeper. I'm just gonna use that to create a little bit more depth through the crease and right on the outer corner of the eye. Next, I'm going to go into the shade Hot Springs. This is one of those shades that's a matte that has glitter in it, and I have learned from you guys that using these on your finger is the best way to go. So I'm going to grab this on my ring finger, and I'm going to press it into my lid from the lash line right up to the crease. Doing it this way, it helps to bring out the texture of the glitter. And if you want to, afterward, you can kind of just blend it around the edges. And as long as you don't go over the whole thing, you don't really lose the texture. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab my number 7, I'm going to go back into Come Together, and I'm going to use that to just blend that into the crease. I'm going to go into a little bit of the shade Alcove as well, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick it up on the ring finger, and I'm just going to press it right in the center of the lid. I don't want to cover up too much of that other shadow, but just to highlight right in the middle, I think it'll be nice. I'm going to grab a little smudging brush, and I'm going to go into the shade No Bounds. And I'm going to use that to press that shade along the upper lash line. And I'm going to taper it in so that it's a little bit thinner toward the inner corner. I'm going to bring that out just a little past the end of the eye, like a little tiny flick. And I'm just going to blend over that with that BH number 7. You might need to go back in and like pack some more down after you blend it and soften it out, because it's walking a tightrope here as far as like how much product you have down versus like the softness of it, you know what I mean? As a matter of fact, I'm going to grab a brown pencil liner. This one is from PIXI. It's called Copper Glow. I'm just going to run that right at the lash line just to give myself a little bit of a base because I feel like that lash line is not grabbing the shadows the way I want it. And then I'm going to go back in with that shade No Bounce again, just tap it over the top and then blend. I'm also going to grab a little bit more of that shade on a Sigma E36 and just bring it right into the outer corner of the crease. I concealed and powdered, and I also, I am thinking that the shade No Bounce does not actually perform all that well because I thought that it was like just blending off of my lash line because like, I don't know, I was like hitting my lashes or something. I wasn't getting close enough. But actually, I had a really hard time blending it on this eye too, like especially in the outer corner. It seems like it blends away really easily. I'm surprised because generally speaking, that never happens to me with ColourPop shadows. Like it's very rare that I get a ColourPop shadow in a palette that's not absolutely perfect. So I'm a little bit surprised. It's not terrible, it's just not the best, especially by ColourPop standards. So just FYI, take that same PIXI pencil and I'm going to run it through my waterline. These PIXI pencils are really, really good, but I hate saying PIXI pencil for some reason. It sounds so dumb. PIXI eyeliner, there we go. That's better, don't hate saying that. I'm gonna grab a MAC pencil brush and I'm gonna go into the shade Morningside. It's a little bit warmer, but it's still a neutral-ish matte. And I'm gonna use that to run under the lower lash line. I feel like a little bit of warmth down there will be nice. I'm going to blend it right under the little wing shape we created. I know I said at the beginning that I was going to make this round, but guess what? I lied. And I didn't even just lie to you guys. I lied to myself because I believed it. I'm going to take that smudger brush and go back into No Bounce because you know what? Even though it's not working well, it's the only choice we have for a dark matte in this palette, so we're going to use it anyway. I'm going to stamp that along the outer half of the lower lashes. Just bring it right up to meet that little wing shape. And then use my BH number 7 with a little bit more of Morningside on it, just tapped off to blend it out. I'm going to take my Luxie 111 mini brush and I'm going to go into the shade Spirited. And from the looks of it, I think it's a Super Shock formula. So I'm going to wet that. Not that you have to wet something because it's a Super Shock, but you know, they do work really well that way. Just going to pop that right on my inner corner. And I'm just going to blend the edges of that with the same brushes that I used to put down the surrounding shades. That way, it's like it blends a little bit of that shade back over it. You know what I mean? I tossed on House of Lashes Siren Doubles, and I'm going to be honest, I feel cute as hell in this. I added some freckles, and I finished up my skin, and I think that part of the reason why I feel so cute in this look is because it's light and fresh and nice, and that's a nice change of pace, but also it could be because I haven't worn makeup at all, like not even one stitch of makeup besides skincare, and the other day I threw on a little bit of mascara in like 5 or 6 days. I did get dressed once, I put on an outfit once, but I still didn't wear any makeup with it. Anyway, to finish off this look, I really want to keep it light and fresh. So I'm going to grab one of my NABLA lip pencils. This is the shade Rosy Magnolia. I'm just going to use this for a little bit of definition around the edge of my lips. I'm going to blend it in, and then I'm going to go over the top with the ColourPop Luxe Gloss in the shade Come Through. I think these will go nicely together. I think they'll go nicely with this look, and it'll be a really simple way to like polish off a very daytime friendly, light and airy sort of a look that still has like some look snatched good structure to it, you know? You know. And this is the first look. Okay, for look number 2, I'm gonna level with you guys. It's been about 5 days since I filmed the first look. I had a bunch of stuff that I had to do. I had guests here this weekend. I got a new phone, and now I can't get my camera to connect to my phone where I usually use it as a monitor. So I don't have a monitor, and I'm just using the viewfinder here, and I feel all fucked up, but I'm gonna try my damnedest to get the rest of this video filmed right now. So for this look, I want to play with the color Seashells because it has a little tinge of green to it. And I think I'm going to play into the greenness by using the Melt Gel Liner in Wallflower as a base. But first we need to put down some stuff for that to work on top of. So I'm going to grab my BH number 6 brush. I'm going to go into the shade Come Together, and I'm going to start working that through my crease. And at this point, it's been like literally 5 days since I shot and edited the first look. I don't really even remember what colors I used in the first look. I'm gonna have to go back and like re-watch my own video to catch myself up before I do the review portion of this. This matte blends so nicely. I know I had trouble in the first look with the darkest matte No Bounds. I'm probably gonna use it again in this look to test it and see if it works a little bit better. So I'm gonna use that shade No Bounds on my BH number 7. I'm gonna use that to deepen up the crease a little bit, bringing it above my natural crease a little, so that when I cut it with that Melt eyeliner as a base, it still sticks up above my natural crease. I'm also bringing that down a little bit onto the outer corner. See, that color is definitely working better this time, and I don't know what was going wrong the first time, but I'm glad because that was annoying. So now that that little bit of structure is down, I'm gonna grab my Melt Wallflower Gel Eyeliner. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of this on my NABLA Cut Crease Maker brush, and I'm first going to put it on the back of my hand. That'll warm it up a little bit and make the formula a little bit more slippy before I put it on my eye, which is usually what you want with a cut crease. Then when I have it loaded up with my nice slippy green eyeliner, I'm just gonna do a half cut crease starting from the inner corner. And where that ends, I'm just gonna tap it out with my finger so that it's not a harsh line and we can blend some other shades over it and make it all make sense in the end. Now I'm gonna grab a MAC 242 brush. This is just a nice flat brush, and I'm gonna go into that greenish shade Seashells, which this feels like a desert palette. Why seashells? Why do I always have so many questions about the namings of things? You know, I just like the theme to work. And I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna pack it over where I put down that green base. Wow, that looks amazing over that. So I'm gonna take a Sigma EO6 brush, I'm gonna go back into No Bounds, and I'm just gonna run that along the edge of that cut to redefine it, where I screwed it up a little bit because your girl got real sloppy. And I'm just gonna gently blend that out with a small blending brush. I'm gonna take a NABLA small pencil brush, and I'm gonna go back into the shade Come Together, and I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of No Bounds, and I'm gonna use that to define the outer corner a little bit more and blend it over that green. I'm just using circular motions to kind of circle that into the blend and then like continue it into the lid. I don't know how to explain that. Do you know what I mean? You're watching. You can see what I'm doing. Okay, I concealed and I put some powder down, and now I'm going to start working on the lower lash line. And for the lower lash line, I want to bring in the warmer tones in this palette again. So I'm going to go into the shade Morningside on a MAC 217 brush. I'm going to use that underneath the whole lower lash line, just sweep it on there and blend it nice and low. I am noticing now that I have the whole look kind of structured on the top that that color No Bounds does have a little bit of patchiness to it again. I can definitely work it out and like keep blending it and like touching it up and make it work, but it is a little bit more difficult than most ColourPop colors, as I suspected. I'm gonna grab that NABLA small pencil brush, and I'm gonna go into that shade No Bounds because really it kind of has us by the balls in this palette, honestly. I'm going to use that to define the lower lash line, especially on the outer half, blending that into the shape that we created on the top. I'm going to go back in and continue blending that because it is still kind of giving me a little bit of a hard time. First, I want to do the waterline, and I'm going to do the waterline with a lip pencil. I'm going to use the color OG Lolita from KVD Vegan Beauty, and I am going to just run that through my waterline, even though it's a lip liner. And like I always say, do as I say, not as I do. Don't use things in your waterline that you've used on your mouth, and also don't use things on your waterline that are not eye safe. I've scraped this off, so the part that I'm using in my eye has never touched my lips, and I am willing to risk it for the biscuit. I still like the peachy neutral of this as an eyeliner, you know? I'm going to take my Luxie 111 mini brush and I'm going to go into the shade Sultan, which is like this goldish shimmer. And I'm going to pop that on the inner corner and drag it from the inner corner underneath into the lower lash line as well. Sultan also appears to be a super shock because when I put my brush in it, it made like a little denty poo. I put on House of Lashes Aquamarine and I finished up my skin and I'm ready to add a lip. I want to use some of the MAC Powder Kiss liquid lipsticks that I did a video on last week. If you haven't seen that, I will link it right up here, but I really like the formula of these and I've been kind of playing around with them ever since I filmed that, wearing them kind of in my day-to-day life. But my favorite way to use these is to use like a more nude shade and then add a little bit of a color in the middle. So since I'm trying to pick up a little bit of like that salmon-y tone that's in this palette, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the shade Date Maker all over my whole lip. This just is kind of like a nude, and then I'm going to use the shade Crossfade, which is a little bit more corally orange, in the center and blend them together. And I'm gonna like tap the edges of the whole thing out to give it a more diffused look, because that is the most desirable way to use these. And this is the second look. So after doing these two looks, even though I did them 5 days apart, I just went back and rewatched the first look that I filmed to like refresh my memory. I have some thoughts, okay? This, as far as ColourPop palettes are concerned, not my favorite, to be quite frank. It's not a terrible palette, but I think considering that it's one of the more neutral palettes they've released in a long time, what I'm looking for in it, because it's not terribly exciting, is the performance. And as far as ColourPop is concerned, this is not their best performing palette. The only shade that I really had a hard time with was No Bounds. It wasn't even that hard of a time, but compared to other ColourPop palettes, it's definitely notably more patchy. Normally, I don't have any issues with any of the shades in a ColourPop palette, including the mattes, including the deep shades, including the more difficult shades. It usually all performs really well. So I was surprised that I'm having an issue with one of the shades being patchy. It's one of the first times that that's ever happened. Everything else in here worked just fine. I like that there are a few super shock shadows in here because I am a big fan of those. And I do really like the shade Seashells. Although it is not the most like vibrant greenish shade in the world, it definitely adds a little bit of something more interesting to an otherwise very neutral palette, and I like the contrast between that and the more corally nudes and stuff like that. Overall, it's not a bad palette, but it's just not one that I would tell you to like run out and get right now. Like, I wouldn't be super excited to recommend it to you, you know what I mean? Overall, I think this one's just okay. I don't hate it, but I'm definitely not in love, and I'm a little bit more excited for the palette they released after this one, which I already ordered, and I just got a notification that it shipped this morning, and I actually can't even remember the name of it right now because it's all blending together. Hold on. The Garden Variety palette. It's a little bit bigger. It's one of their $20 palettes, and I will be doing some looks with it soon. A few of you, when I asked on Instagram, said that you thought it was too similar to this one, but now that I have this one in my hand and I'm looking at the picture of the Garden Variety palette online, Garden Variety definitely has a lot more color involved, so I think that maybe it'll be a little bit more interesting. We'll see. Stay tuned. I'm going to be doing some looks with it soon. In the interim, there's going to be something else though, so stay tuned for that first. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know, have you picked up this palette? Was this one that you decided to skip because it was more on the neutral side? Do you like more neutral palettes like this? Do you like ColourPop palettes? Whatever your thoughts are, please leave them in a comment. I would love to hear about it. Don't forget to leave a like on this video because it's very helpful and I would really appreciate it. And you know, if you like this video, just give it a like, you know, makes sense, right? And also, if you're new around here, please subscribe because I would love to have you around for more videos. To keep up with me between these videos, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram. I'm at Ms. Quinface over there, and I would love to have you there for that as well. I keep my stories updated very, very regularly. I usually talk about what's coming up here on this channel. You guys get to see a little bit more of like my life behind the scenes and stuff because that's where it's more appropriate. And every now and again, I'll post something fun on the timeline, like a close-up of one of these looks or a video or lip art or something fun. I'll be back very soon with another multi-looks video. Thank you so much for hanging out today and taking the time to talk makeup with me. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you in the next one.